All right, so today it's day 52. What I did mostly was reading this paper on agentic AI. I want to work on that, and it's like a comprehensive survey. So it's nothing too technical, just like an overview of how is the agentic AI in 2020, or at least how it was in 2025, because now it's 2026, right? And aside from this, I also did this lead code, right? The first one, the valid palindrome. It was very easy. So it was just with 2 pointers. There was an interesting solution I saw. It was with my solution was just 2 pointers. It starts one at the beginning, the other at the end. If they are the same, you move the 2 pointers, and if you find like a character that does not match, then you return false. Otherwise, if you finish like all the word, you're gonna return true. And like the special edge case is to take into account that the character has to be alphanumeric. That's it. So you can make like a pre-processing where you remove it, or you can do it like in the loop. And what else? I saw that there was a solution, like an interesting one, in which instead of doing the while with 2 pointers, we just compare this. You do return s equal to s. Yeah, so you basically transpose, inverse the string, and if the inverse is the same as the original, it's a palindrome, which makes sense. But then there was another solution which was very interesting, which was with a bitwise operations. I think it was this one, with not I. And yeah, that was it about LeetCode. And about this paper, it's pretty long, like really long, but it covers like many interesting aspects. So they start by explaining what is in essence agentic AI, and a good way into explaining what is something is to compare it into what it is not, right? So, or what it has, what is in base on what makes it different to the previous like conception of what we have. So we have basically traditional AI, and in agentic AI there is like some added features that make it traditional agentic. In essence, it's mostly the capacity of an AI to have like tool integrations, but this has like many implications. The implication is that now it has to be like more, the approach is like more broader, and it has the implication, and this is probably the most important one, the adaptability. So now it's not like just fixed to solve like a specific task, but rather it is able to reason about the environment and the context, and to perform a set of rules defined by the tools it has. And now the question is what it is. I said what it is in contraposition of what is not, and also how we make it. And there are like many frameworks into doing it. Like what is the main essence of agentic AI? And essentially it's, you cannot have agentic AI without reinforcement learning. Like it is crucial. It is not only reinforcement learning, but you must have reinforcement learning. And then they cover like, for example, the comparison between the classical agents, reinforcement learning agents, and then you have like the merge, which is agentic AI. You can think about it in the simplest example is you have an LLM and you give it tools. That's basically it. But it's much more complex than that. I mean, it has many branches, many implications, and so on and so on. And they take like the reasoning of a particular feature or a particular implication, and then they build like every possible, I don't know, like every possible like branch on that implication, and they like develop on into it. So for example, you can understand agentic AI in the way it's implemented, that is in the methodology, and you can divide methodologies in three different ones. You can either implement multi-agent systems, hierarchical reinforcement learning, or goal-oriented modular architectures. And the first one, the multi-agent systems, is that you no longer have like just one agent, but you have several of them. Now the implication is, how do you coordinate all of them? Because you can make it like some sort, like assign some role. I mean, it could be very, very interesting. It implies, what it implies when you have many agents, it implies collaboration. Or you can have hierarchical reinforcement learning, which is like you have like higher, some agents that have like higher, that have like higher goals, and low-level agents that have like other types of goals, and these ones give order to the other ones. Some sort of like a separation, like a hierarchy between the agents. Then you have the goal-oriented, so you make it modular and you specify to each agent like some sort of goals. Then there are also the methodologies, and the first one was the architectural approach, and this one it's like a separation between the different concepts. So you can have in agentic AI, you can understand it in how well do you perform over reasoning and planning, or how well does it do tool use and integration, or how does it work the memory mechanism, or the retrieval augmented generation, which is like how well can I retrieve information from another source and integrate, or the instruction fine-tuning, and so on. And then, very important, the evaluation techniques. And for the evaluation techniques, what they say basically is that accuracy is not the only metric, but rather you have to evaluate the agents over like a set of different features, which are like how good, which they defined. I don't remember where they defined it. Maybe it's this, the autonomy. I mean, this is a comparison, like how well they are against like the traditional versus the agentic in these features. All right, and the metrics. These ones are the metrics. So the success rate, the adaptability, the efficiency, and so on. And what else? I mean, there are so many things that can be said about the agentic AI. Also, they talked about the applications, which are mostly they make a separation. They said first it can be industry wise, and the industry could be like healthcare, finance, education, and so on. And then they say something like they can also take care about some collaboration between human and machine tasks, like to some extent like creative tasks, and so on. And the main takeaway here is that it's gonna be applied in fields that involved in which the environment it's gonna change, and we need some sort of model that it's able to adapt to this change. And in I don't know, they give like some examples, some autonomous patients monitoring. So the agent has to be able to adapt to a specific case, and it has to be like persistent over time. And then they cover like other topics about the implementation, the scalability. They show a couple of case studies, also the ethical implications, although these are like very, I mean, I think they are very clear. Like we need to be, there is like some sort of ethical implications when you use a model and give it the ability to be completely autonomous and to have an impact in the real world. So obviously there is a like an ethical implication. Then here the ethical implication is like, how do you think about the implication? Because now, how does the responsibility of a wrong execution, where does it rely, right? Or how do you examine the bias of an agentic AI? Because it could appear that it doesn't have a bias for a specific task, but globally it does, and so on and so on. Like it's very, it could get very, very interesting. What else? Also about like the future directions. All right, but as a conclusion, essentially the paper makes like a thorough examination of agentic AI in general in many different areas and from different angles. And the main conclusion is that agentic AI is very promising, but as it is promising as it is also very important to be well supervised, like to take care into account of the possible implications. And that's basically it.